I can look back at my very first Good Morning Springfield. Walked in the door and it was a fairly intimidating environment. There were just a lot of people there that seemed to have so many connections already. Frankly, I didn't get more than 5 feet inside the door and just paused there. But it was actually a great place to be because as I stood inside that door, so many people kind of came and openly welcomed me. And I realized pretty quickly what this new opportunity was going to be. It was an opportunity to meet so many new people and also be welcomed into a community that I didn't feel like I was as connected to at the beginning.
When Bob Helm wore his hot pink jacket in our interview side by side, it was fabulous.
I think one of the most memorable moments was the first 5 minutes in my first board meeting. I kind of knew what the chamber was about, if you will, but once you actually sit down at that table and you looked around the room and you realize that these are some of the most influential people, some of the most well-respected companies in Springfield, it just hit a lot different. I don't think I was actually prepared for it, but that moment will always stand out to me as just like, wow, this is really cool.
Each year, the executive committee is able to make a trip to Jeff City to speak with the legislators and the governor for key priorities here in the Springfield community. And I think it was my second or third year on the board, had the opportunity to go up to Jeff City, speak about some key priorities we had going on at the time. Had a chance to visit with Governor Parsons, able to recap some of his memorable experiences as it was his last year as a leader of Missouri. And so definitely I would say some of those more private opportunities that the Chamber board has open to them, that one was a fun one for me.
There were quite a few surprises for me when I joined the board. I really felt like my outside looking in perspective was it was kind of ceremonial, like, you did ribbon cuttings and things like that. And then once I actually got involved, I realized there was so much more to what the Chamber offered the city, from, being involved deeply in economic development and collaborating with other area cities and bringing, jobs into the area. Things like, I knew they did lobbying and, had legislative efforts, but I guess I just didn't realize how well respected they were.
How broad the Chamber's work is. Again, focused on things like legislative advocacy, community growth, just collaboration between not just business, but also the local educators, the civic side of our community. I think I was just surprised at how broad that was.
So when I first joined the board, sometimes we think the Chamber is just a place for business networking, and it is. But what I loved most from the board's perspective is seeing everything that the Chamber's involved in. And so, they're involved in workforce development, economic development. They support the public education system. And so just the influence that the Chamber brings was really impressive, and it really surprised me just how far-reaching it actually is in our region.
I think being a young professional in that environment, it can be a little intimidating, and just being with all those powerhouse business leaders, but I think it really was cool that they actually valued my opinion and my perspective.
I've had the opportunity, now this is my third time serving on the board, and it's helped me tremendously in my relationships across the community. But it's also helped me, I think, become a better architect for the clients that we work with, a better partner. Being a little bit more connected to what's going on in my industry and how that impacts economic development and a lot of the things that the Chamber does helps tie together a bunch of things that then truly leads to better outcomes for the clients that we work with.
Serving on the board has shaped me professionally, really seeing a much broader picture of our community, seeing it from a much larger level, rather than just being solely focused on my own business, seeing our community in a much larger picture.
Well, it's naturally challenging to be around so many great folks, great leaders, great business people, visionaries, and I think we all sharpen one another in those ways, and certainly I feel like I've come away inspired by the leadership, the vision of so many great community members, great community leaders.
Well, obviously, working with all of the leaders that I've gotten to meet on the board has been incredible. Some of those leaders may have never came across my path just because we're all in different industry and different sectors within our community. But when you bring all of them together and, we worked on the strategic plan for the last several years, and just the ideas and the innovation and all that comes out of that, it was really, I think for me as a leader, it really helped me lengthen my networking, but even more than that, just really see how ideas can actually become realities.
In my new role as becoming the Cox House CEO, meeting new people in the community, and not just meeting new people, but getting a good pulse of what the community needs was a big number one thing on my list. In addition to that, I've really enjoyed watching the chamber team work. I watched so many people elevate into new roles, get into different situations, and also take on this new mantle of boldness in our community. And I've watched over, especially the last year, taking on that mantle of boldness really shape and refine the way we address key activities in our community.
Well, I think the Chamber's most meaningful impact can be as a catalyst for growth, innovation, and progress. I love that word, catalyst. I think it embodies what the Chamber is all about, a bold leadership, bringing people together, the connections that we can be about in the region as well as in the Springfield community. We have a great mission as a Chamber to serve as the leading advocate for business in so many ways.
Yeah, so I think being the bold voice for business growth, for economic development is the primary reason the Chamber is here and supporting our community. There's a lot of factors that go into economic development, from workforce development, talent attraction, healthcare, education, tourism. All are critical components of economic development. And being that bold voice of business, to me, is being the person in the room that makes others feel uncomfortable, that is thinking outside of the box in an effort to drive our community forward.
I think the most meaningful and impactful thing they do is being involved in economic development. I mean, keeping the city thriving and being a good place to live and work is so important. And they are very involved in that in an active way. And so many of the community leaders jump in and help wherever they can. And other than that, I think one of the important roles that they have is educating around local elections and in our changing political environment with divisiveness and things like that go on. The Chamber really kind of pivoted, and I feel like took on an important role in educating the people of the city on issues and things that are important.
I think the Chamber's biggest value, if you will, that it brings is truly just bringing the people together. The Chamber is nothing without our members or without the board and the people that volunteer and make this organization run. And if the Chamber can continue to pull in the right people to the table, then it doesn't really matter what the problems are, because you've got the bandwidth and the brain power there to solve those problems.